This is Jeanne Kitchens, Chief Technology Services Officer with Credential Engine. Thank you for watching Resolving Error Messages and Conflicts with the Pathway Builder. Resolving error message and conflicts is our singular topic with this video, and we will conclude with additional resources. As you are creating your pathway, it is important to know that you may run into error messages or conflict messages, and that's okay because you will have the opportunity to review and correct all of them. It's important to be able to review them and understand any specific errors. So I'm going to go over each type of error that you may encounter with the Pathway Builder. Remember, as you are working on your pathway, always save your pathway. Save your pathway as you work on it to retain your progress. You can save an incomplete pathway and return to it later. And even if a pathway has any error messages or conflicts, you can still save your pathway. So let's take a look at error messages and conflicts. They are important to resolve, and if they do occur, as you will not be able to fully approve your pathway until they are resolved. There are specific types of conflict messages, and those messages, if they occur, will show in the header under the conflict queue. And if you were to click that queue by clicking the button to show the conflicts, they will all appear on your screen. And if you want to do that, you can then address them, or you can just clear them off the screen by clicking the X adjacent to each of the conflict messages, and it will clear it off your screen. Now, clicking the X adjacent to those messages is not going to correct the conflict for you, but it will simply get it out of the way until you're ready to take a look at what those conflicts might be. There is really only a small number of specific types of conflicts that can occur. So if you do get a conflict error message, it's going to be one of these items listed here on the screen right now. So let's take a look at what could cause a conflict message. The first thing on our list is condition quantity. And that means if you have included a condition component and that component does not have a quantity that correlates to the number of cards that are connected to that condition, then you will need to correct the quantity in the condition. So if 2 out of 3 cards are required, for example, set the quantity to 2 and ensure that 3 cards are pointing to that condition component. So that's pretty easy to fix once you know what it means. The next item is a disconnected condition. If a component condition is not connected to the cards to the left of it or the parent cards, then you will get a conflict message. And it's really easy to correct. All you have to do is connect the parent card or the cards to the left of the condition that need to have an arrow to it. Just simply connect those cards, and once those are connected, your conflict will be resolved. Invalid URLs. So you will include URLs, mostly optional, for describing your pathway and for creating your components, your pathway components. If you do enter a web page and the web page is not a valid URL, you will get a conflict message. And the conflict message would tell you which component it is that needs to be corrected. And you would simply open it up through the edit modal, put the correct subject web page in, and save it. And once you save, your conflict should disappear. Please keep in mind that URLs should always be public web pages. They should not require a login. If you are pointing to a page with login, it could result in an invalid URL. Missing a destination component. Every pathway must have a destination component, and that destination component gets placed under the destination component column, and that is corrected simply by dragging the appropriate card over to the destination and then making sure connections are made to it. If you drag a card over to your destination and you do not connect the cards to the left of it to the destination, well, then you would get an error. required fields. So when you enter your pathway description and when you enter your component information, there's a small number of required fields. Recall that we always will advocate for adding additional information beyond just what is required, but minimally you have to fill those required fields in. And remember that when you pull a component onto the board, and if you do not fill it in, then it will have a red outline around it. So that is will be a good clue as to which components need to be filled in. So make sure that you fill in all required fields. And this is the complete list of conflict messages. So let's take a look at the other possible error messages, and we can see that there's 3 other kinds of error messages. Now, these error messages will not fill up the conflict queue. Rather, when you go to click approve, they will simply show on the screen. They'll show in the same format as the conflict messages. So you can review them, correct them, and if you want to get them out of the way, simply click the X adjacent to that error message. But keep in mind, you have to correct the error to completely clear the error message. Otherwise, when you go to approve again, that same error will reappear. So the error messages are missing connections. Every card on the board needs to have at least one connection to another card, always pointing toward the destination. Resources in the left rail. At the time of approving your pathway, all of the cards that are under selected in the left rail, the reason they're there is because you did a search of the registry and you added those cards. So it's reasonable to assume you need to use all those cards to build your pathway. If it turns out that you brought in cards that you simply do not need, you will need to remove them. So if you have any cards left in the left rail, when you go to approve your pathway, you're going to either need to incorporate that card in your pathway, or if you simply don't need it, you simply remove it from the left rail by clicking the little minus adjacent to that card, then resave your pathway and approve it, and that error will be cleared. And that is a complete review of the conflict and error messages. Once those are corrected, you should be able to approve your pathway to be published to the Credential Registry. This video, along with numerous other resources to support your work with the Pathway Builder, are available through the Credential Engine website, and they're always all linked from the header in the help area. Thank you again for watching.